Hey there, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jamie, and we're your co-hosts for Two Clicks in a Pod.
Join us as we explore our missed times, stories, and memories due to divorce and a 1,000-mile separation.
I can't wait. You ready to get into it, Kev?
I am. Hey, Jamie, you think they're going to swear?
Oh, yeah. Consider yourselves warned.
Oh, that's great.
All righty. Happy Sunday morning.
Yeah. Happy Sunday, Dad.
Yeah.
Coffee. I stopped and grabbed
Coffee?
a Starbies, as the kids say.
Tea. I had my coffee.
Ooh.
We had some new bean this morning. Suzanne went down to the farmer's market on the square and found and discovered a local coffee guy who has been started up a little bean and roasting, and she bought some bean and brought it home, just a small little package. So we had that this morning.
Good?
It's good. Was good. She had it yesterday, but she's a big fan of iced coffee. So
yeah.
And they were making when we were in Cabo, they made these ice latte coffees that were really good from what I tasted. I didn't have a whole one, but she found and got hooked on those. So
When does the farmer's market run there? Is it on Saturdays?
Saturday, and I've been down been down there with her once. She went down by herself yesterday, but it runs in the mornings, and we had threatening weather in the morning, so she said it wasn't as crowded, but she got some fruit and vegetables and a few other things, and just coffee beans. Yep, brought it home. So
Well, speaking of your town of Gallatin there, I did look up yesterday on Verbo options for a Verbo there for the wedding, and there's quite a few options and very affordable. So
I saw the same thing.
That route.
Saw the same thing. Yeah. I mean, and I didn't know what you meant by affordable, but I did it on Airbnb, and there's two right across the street, across the lake on Lakeshore.
Okay.
Well, one was like for the 3 days, or Thursday through Sunday, was about $2,000, and it would be a little tight. It was only a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. So, but there was,
that's way more. So I was finding stuff that was like in Gallatin, so we could hit up the farmer's market that Saturday morning.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
But what I was saying, what we were looking is there was a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, and it's in the town, so it's not on the lake. Obviously, why it's going to be less expensive.
Yeah.
But we can do that for $600 for 3 nights.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
And so basically for the same price as the hotel that I looked up. But my point is like, we don't ever sleep well in hotels because we're all in the same room. This would, everybody in my family would have their own room and we would have a bathroom that we don't have to share with the kids. So I think we may just go that route.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. That'd be cool. That would be good.
Rent a car, but that's fine. I can rent a car, or maybe.
Well, you can use one of the cars here. Yeah, exactly.
Just borrow one of your cars, and then we're close to the house. But yeah, so I think that's what we're gonna do. I was gonna call Shane and Kels and let them know, just, hey, we're doing this, not to share a house, but like if there's multiple options like that actually in the area. That we're, sleeps. Yeah, that would sleeps 4, sleeps 6, sleeps 8 type of thing. If they want to do that too. So, yeah,
that's a good call. Yeah, I was hoping to find something in that price, and I don't know. Maybe you were on VRBO. I was on Airbnb, I think.
Well, if you were on or by the lake, it's obviously going to be more expensive. But I mean, I'm not really worried about being by the lake because, one, I just know we're going to be doing stuff as a family, so that's not really a priority for me. And it's like Chris said, he's like, we're not going to be spending any time at this house. We're just going to be sleeping there. It's not like we're looking for a place for everybody to come hang out. We're going to be hanging out with you and Suzanne and the family for the wedding festivity. So we literally were just kind of like, we just need to be close to Dad's and ideally be able to sleep for the 3 nights that we're there.
Yeah. Yep, that's a good call. And I was looking. I just didn't see anything. Kind of. Of course, it was all. There were a few in town, but I didn't see that many options. So I'll have to take a look at that again. Yep.
So I need to get on that because I don't
So I
want to
thought that
lose
was
the
a good deal.
opportunity. Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
a great deal. So that was part of I don't think I even shared this with you yet, but Chris ended up not coming to Montreal with us because he got one of his like sinus flares, Tuesday night. He was up all Tuesday night coughing. Just it because he just has like that post nasal drip that's just constant. So he's constantly
Yeah.
coughing. So all Tuesday night, he's awake. I probably was up from 2 o'clock in the morning until the next day. I couldn't go back to sleep because he kept coughing. So we were scheduled to leave Wednesday. And I'm like, at like 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm laying there in bed just thinking, there is no way if he's still doing this that we can all go on this trip and sleep in this because it's one hotel room,
Hmm.
and we were going to be there for 4 nights. And I'm like, no one's going to sleep. He's going to have everybody awake. Like, this is not possible. So I felt terrible. But Wednesday morning, I pretty much told him, I was eh, like, do you see this happening for the next 2 nights? Because if so, like, I don't think you can come. And I felt bad, but he's like, yeah, I don't know that I should go. And I'm like, I don't think you can go. like, like Parker has to sleep. I can't. I didn't sleep that night, so I was like, I'm going to be driving, 8 hours by myself, literally on 2 hours of sleep. So I was already anxious about that. But so he ended up not coming, and and I mean, and he was like, it was the right call, but he was definitely disappointed because one, we were excited about going, and two, I think he just felt bad. But so yeah, I made the drive up by myself on like 2 hours of sleep. So I was just like hammering coffee, Dad, and I had bought like a big bag of those Sour Patch watermelon gummies, which I don't know if you've ever
Yeah.
had those, but they're freaking awesome. And I'm just like, I bought them for Parker and like the kids to share throughout the weekend. And because it was like a jumbo bag. And I was like, I'll just have a few. I like open them up and put them on the console there. And I just
Uh-huh.
hammer. I mean, I'd start to get tired. So I just like kept eating candy. So I'm like drinking Celsius, drinking coffee, hammering candy, eating almonds. Like I just ate for basically 8 hours
Oh
straight
my gosh. My
to keep
gosh.
myself like. And I never felt unsafe. Like I told Chris, I said, if I feel like it's not safe, I'll pull over. I'll have to pull over and sleep for an hour. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do anything stupid, but uh, it was pretty comical. And the kids are no help because they're just in the back seat with their headphones on and their heads are in their devices. So I don't have like really anybody to talk to. I should have just called somebody on the phone and said, just talk to me. But I did an audible. I listened to a book on the way up there. So that was
There
good.
you go.
That kept me entertained.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Did
So
so I was wondering, you said it took 8 hours to get up there. So that's a good 500 miles, I guess.
well, technically, it was just shy of it. So it was like a solid 7 hours and 20 minutes is what the map threw out there. And so I just figured,
Uh-huh.
like, with a stop, it's closer to 8. But, we drove to Boston the weekend before and hit traffic in Connecticut. And the drive to Boston is just a whip. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd probably rather drive anywhere in the world than drive to Boston. And,
Mm-hmm.
well, I should say in North America because I couldn't drive anywhere in the world, but you knew what I meant.
Yep.
But this drive up to Montreal, you can go on the eastern route up through New York City, and it'll take you over, or you can go what I called the western route, just because it was a little bit further west, and you go up through like upstate New York that way. So you're going up through, you hit Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, up through Syracuse, straight up into, I believe you're headed into the Ontario province is what you actually drive into when you cross the border. And when I hit go that morning, it was actually the quicker route. Like the day before, it was saying going through New York City was going to be quicker, but I told Chris, I was like, I'm not doing it. I don't want any
Yeah.
part of that. New York, Connecticut bullshit. Like I'll tack on the 20 extra minutes to not have to deal with that. And so when I hit go that morning, it was saying that the route I was going to take was the quickest route. And it was, it was a solid 7.5 hours, but it was no traffic, straight. I mean, just literally you're driving up 476 basically to 81 into Canada. And it was great. Like easy drive. Crossing the border, there was one car in front of me. One, because I was kind of
What
like,
did they require? What documentation at the border did you have to have?
So I had my passport, and the lady asked me some questions. She asked, she asked me where we were going, what we were going for, how long were we staying, where were we staying. This one threw me. She goes, are you the sole guardian? And I said, yes, because Chris wasn't with me. And she said, okay, so do you have documentation that legally states that you are these children's sole guardian, that you have primary guardianship? I go, oh, no, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I was like, I have a husband. He's at home. I was like, we are both guardians of these kids. I was like, but I'm the only person in the car today. I said, I thought that's what you meant. She's like, no. And she goes, okay, well, do you have a letter that says from him that you're allowed to be taking them over the border? And I was like, no, do I need one? And she said, it's not required, but it's good practice. And basically all that is you write a consent letter that the other parent signs, saying like, yep, I know that my wife is taking my 2 children. They're going for this. I give consent. Now, it again wasn't required, but she did ask for it. So that's something just for people who are traveling on your own with your children. If you want to do that, she said it's a good practice to have it. So yeah, she asked me if we had any alcohol, which I lied. I said no, but I technically had a single bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not like I'm bringing it over here to distribute. And that's really what they're asking. Like, are you bringing alcohol into the country to try to distribute?
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't come after me. But she said, do you have any wine, any tobacco products, anything like that? I just said no. And it was easy. My point was it was easy. And of course,
so they didn't require anything of the kids to have a piece of paper or anything.
Well, I had passports for them.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if they had passports.
I got their passports for this, just knowing that we would be in Canada. Obviously, we knew we had this trip coming, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be in Canada next year. And, we talked about taking them out of the country for something. So I was like, might as well just go ahead and get them. So we went ahead and did that. And,
and
it was
did you guys go on the Canadian side of the falls when you were at Niagara Falls?
No, because we didn't have our passports.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember if you had them then or not.
And I think technically for kids under a certain age, you don't have to have it. But like, I forgot my passport, so I couldn't go.
I see.
But next time, that's the plan, because I'd like to see the falls from the Canadian side. It's a much better view. So that's we'll do that for sure. We are going to be up in Buffalo next year, so technically we could, if we wanted to, we could drive up a little further and go to that. Anyway, so yeah, so it was good. It was really cool. Montreal is a very neat city. The weather, it was pretty rainy all weekend, so we had to battle that, but we went up a day early so we could sightsee, and Mom and Dom came with us, so that was great. We did the hop on hop off bus tour through the city, just so we could get like hit the whole geography quickly. And since it was raining off and on, that was a good call. It wasn't like we were going to really want to be walking around in that. So we did that. And then we went into the Old Port area, which is like old Montreal. And they've turned these old ports into just a big family activity area. Like they've got a zip line. They've got the largest Ferris wheel in Canada. Putt-putt. There's boat tours. They have like one of those high-speed boat tours you can go on where they whip you around and do all that crazy shit. So they have that, and a huge bungee jump. Like you could just walk and do stuff in that area. So we did that, and then just had dinner in Old Montreal, and it was a good day. It was a nice day. So finally got to actually check out one of the cities that we visit and not just live in the hockey rink
Awesome.
the whole time. So that was
Awesome.
good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
I recommend
Good deal.
Montreal. So, and I'm sure we'll be back and Chris will be able to join us. And hopefully, as I said, better weather next time. Because I said, well, for you to miss it, you picked the right time to miss it because we didn't really get to get out that much because of the weather. So he picked the right time to not be feeling well. So yeah, that was my past weekend. But you've been in Cabo. You got your new shirt on, it looks like.
Yep. Got me new
I like
kind of
that,
a
Dad.
sun. Yeah, my sun shirt's lightweight, more like a fishing shirt, but it was all good there as well. I was going to make, with Chris getting sick or getting all congested and going through all that nasal stuff. I mean, we've battled that. Well, you battled that in Texas. It almost, I didn't think we would battle it here in Nashville, but we do. And it's just created all kinds of head congestion and things like that, as you know. And, doesn't seem to matter what time of year it is. It just seems to be constant. But I have never felt as clear as I did when I was in Cabo, there within the salt air on the beach.
Yes, it's that
I mean,
beach.
it's no head problems, no sinus problems, no knee problems. My knees felt great.
Right? Yeah.
Didn't work out as routinely as I would have liked to, but at least a couple times each week. And just felt my physical well-being felt great. Just clear head, clear mind, no body aches, and just a really, really good time, and lots of being there 12 days and enjoying that. Was probably 2 days longer than we've ever been there. But yeah, that was a really, really nice trip, and would not complain. We got out on the water on a wine appetizer cruise, which was a lot bigger. The Risalina that we normally like to go on only holds about 15, and they had it down on the off season for maintenance and reworking the engines or something's what they said. But we got on a much bigger catamaran, which was still fun, but a lot more people and just not nearly as cozy and intimate. So it was
right.
You were kind of battling for space and getting pictures, but it's always good to get out there on the water and get to see a little bit of the wildlife. The stingrays, they do this. Then they're not the larger ones. They're probably, I would guess, 2 feet, maybe 3 feet in width, tip to tip. But they school. You can see them schooling on fish, and they do this slapping to where they jump out of the water. It looks like they're almost trying to fly, and then they come down and flop on top of the water. And I did some research because it's crazy to watch them do this. It's kind of like getting into a school of porpoise or dolphins and seeing them jump together.
Yeah,
because they do get airborne and out of the water a pretty height and long distance. So it does look like they're flying, but the takeaways are nobody really knows the answer why they do this. They thought it might be to get up and flap and hit the prey, hit the fish on the top to kind of stun them so that they can grab them.
Yeah.
That makes sense. The other one was that it's the females doing the jumping, trying to get away from the males, in breeding season.
Sure.
And then the last one was just to have a good time and have fun. So those are the 3 reasons: stun fish, get away from fish, get away from your mate, or show off. That's right. And it's really cool to see that.
I like all 3 options. I mean,
I
really do. I dig all 3.
Yeah.
That's
so that
awesome.
was.
Oh, I just
that was fun.
Tell you, sorry, I just thought of this as we're sharing on our trips. Speaking of trips, when I was in Montreal, 2 of the boys that played with us that weekend are from Newfoundland.
Oh, yeah?
Where Shane is from. And so we were sitting around because, not to dive too much into the actual hockey, but we did lose all 4 games. Now,
oh, wow.
Of the 4, 2 were very close. And of the 4, 1, they played very well as a team. And so good takeaways in that, obviously, they were playing against kids that were very good, which makes you better. You get better by playing people that are better than you. So
Mm-hmm.
I would never say, well, it was a waste. Like some people are like, oh, it's a waste. I'm like, it's not a waste, And the boys just have a great time together. They're just all good kids. They genuinely all like one another. They get along. And that's really cool to see because, it doesn't always work that way with teams where everybody can really mesh and get along. So I just love that. But because we lost all 4 games, we did not play on Sunday. So Saturday night, the kids we let them all they're playing knee hockey in the hotel. They're running around the whole hotel was full of hockey people. So they weren't, the hotel wasn't upset by this. Like everybody there was there for hockey. So we weren't upsetting any other patrons of the hotel is my point. And so the parents, we went down and they had a hotel bar restaurant. So we were down there having a drink, and it was great because the bartender, they were almost chairs like what I'm sitting in, but a little bit bigger and fabric and comfy chairs. So we're sitting in this lounge area of the bar, and then somebody else would come down and he'd bring a chair over and we'd open the circle up a little bit. So by the time the night ended, the circle was taking up the entire there was like 12 of these fabric chairs up again, and we had this like a cushioned bench area that people were sitting on as well. So it was fun. We were all sitting around, and I was chatting with the parents from Newfoundland and telling them, hey, so Shane filled us in on this festival. And they were like, oh, yeah. The accents are just so great. And so it's the last weekend of July, Dad, that they do this. And I said, well, my dad and I, we're serious. Like we want to come. And they're like, oh, you have to come. It's great. So
this is in Montreal or in Newfoundland?
Newfoundland. Remember
Newfoundland, the one that Shane talked about. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the big festival, the 7-day festival. So we gotta get that figured out, and I think we'll be able to have some host families to show us around when we go up there.
Oh, that's awesome.
We'll start. I was telling one of the boys that plays with us, his mom and I are pretty close, and her name is Ashley. So I was telling Ashley about it, and they live in North Carolina, and so we don't get to see them very often. I was like, well, we gotta make this Newfoundland trip happen. You guys can go with us, and that way we'll be able to see you, 2 birds, 1 stone, but so we gotta make that happen. Just a little circle back
we'll get
to
that
to our Shane
episode. That on the calendar. Yep.
Well,
the other thing that
trip.
Yep. And I, Newfoundland came up in a conversation there at the pool. I can't remember who it was that I was talking to, but they were getting ready to go up and do a tour in the Northeast and hit Newfoundland here in the next month. So always meeting a lot of interesting people down there, and had recognized a guy in the pool that I'd seen at the Arco, which was closer into town. We were staying at the Valencia at that point in time, and we discovered each other and realized that, we knew each other even though we didn't know each other, and got to be good friends with them. They lived in Indianapolis, and he was a very interesting character. He is hangs out with the Michael Anthony crew in October. So they're going to be back there in October and staying where we stayed last time. And he wasn't there last year. They went somewhere else, but in the previous years, they're big Michael fans as well. So that was fun. And we just really hit it off, and told him I'd make a trip up to Indianapolis. He's got a couple things going. He just retired he was an electrical contractor. He kind of got out of that, retired from that, but he has a Harley Davidson performance shop that deals with aftermarket, exhaust and things like that. He and his partner have done that. And they sponsor a big bike rally on the evening before the Indy 500, to where they shut down the road. They have stunt riders and things like that. And I was talking to him about just that event, and his wife, Monica, was very, very friendly. And, we were all getting along, and just talking about how many people show up for that. They started that kind of from the ground up. And I told them the whole, us starting the parties out at the lake and went through that deal. Of course, this is something, but what brought all of that up is he said, I learned my lesson really quick about having officers on, on off-duty officers on duty. And I said, well, Scott, if you want to hear a funny story about off-duty officers on duty, I learned my lesson the hard way. So he laughed about that. But yeah, I mean, they have about 13 to 16,000 people at this thing. And he says there's never any trouble. Everybody gives people a bad name, but he says it's always a lot of fun. And that the city has given them a hard time about permitting the event, just with everything and how the social dynamics have changed, I think, over the last couple of years. But they as well go through, they do very well in that business, number one, to where they can sponsor that. Number two, they've got merch. He said they started off at one time doing 100 event t-shirts to where this year they did last year they did 200. This year they did 300, and they're sold out before the event ever takes place.
Yeah.
And then he said, we've got our standard hats and our hoodies and, our knit hats and all that kind of stuff. And he said, we sold out in 2.5 hours, $58,000 worth of merch. And I said, dude, that's amazing. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. And we were, talking about it. And, he saw me wearing the hats. And so he asked the 2 Clicks what was going on with that. And I told him we had just gotten the caps made. And I said, who is it that you use? Well, he says, well, we use Arizona Tees right across the street from us there in Indy. And he says, we've used them for years. I'll hook you up and see if you can't get a better deal on your next order. So any event, that was kind of cool. And then, as I've shared with you from there and afterwards, we met a nice, group of four women that were originally from all, Nebraska. 2 of them still lived in Omaha. The other 2 had left Nebraska and moved to California. Nancy was actually shared the pastoral duties at a church out there. So she was kind of interesting to talk to, but, they saw us in the pool and noticed the hat and Greg and I were staring down the beach because they had a big wedding going on and it was just packed with people. And we were trying to figure out whether it was a wedding, but the crowd was mostly all women, all girls, so it must have been a coming out because they were all Latino. So we thought, well, it's not a wedding. It's got to be a
quinceañera.
A quinceañera.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about that, and Greg brought up, well, maybe it's a gay wedding, I said, well, maybe it is, So so I don't anyway, but anyway, CG and Nancy and their partners came over and visited with us, and they were just the kindest people, and we spent time with them. And CG was really cool. She had the most dry sense of humor. I told her, Holly and I were trying to convince her and everybody to be a stand-up comic. She just had that boom, boom, boom splash, for everything that was being said. And anyway, she became a Clicks fan right there at the resort because as soon as she saw my hat, she asked me what it was all about. And then I said, well, we got a podcast. And the next day they come back and they come up to me, and I didn't have my 2 Clicks hat on that day. And they said, you're the 2 Clicks guy. I said, I am. And she says, well, I just want to let you know. And this was not CG. It was her wife, I guess. They were standing behind her. And she said, man, we just love it. We just love the podcast. So anyway, hats are on the way to Nebraska. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
That was fun. Yep.
Well, I like that. That's really cool, Dad. Spreading the word. I'm glad y'all had a great trip, and I hear you on that beach, the beach atmosphere. I feel the same way whenever I'm there. It's just, and Chris says this too. He's like, he loves being at the beach because his sinuses never bother him ever. He's like clear, and I think it's just that humidity in the air. It keeps everything in your body from getting real dry, and I don't know. Anywho, that's awesome. Good times. We're settled here for a little while. other than headed to Atlantic City with you and the other grandparents at the end of the month. So looking forward to that. And we're going to be watching one of my all-time favorite bands, little Def Leppard show, Dre, in old AC. So this is my first time to Atlantic City. I've never been. We're going to be down there on Friday. So we don't need to get into that right here right now with all these folks, but we need to talk logistics just to put a marker in that you and I need to talk logistics on that trip. So
my mic just went dead. Can you hear me? No. Okie dokie. Where we want to go next? What you got in your agenda?
Well, I might be bringing it down a little bit, but I've just been thinking a lot about this over the week, and I guess a little bit of backstory for our Clicks family. So it all makes a little bit of sense. But we got some pretty upsetting news I got some upsetting news last Friday when I was in Montreal. Just family member. I'll use the word in crisis, and that news was shared, and I'm glad that obviously the news was shared. It was hard getting that where I was, because one, I'm already not, I already don't live in the same place as this person, but I was completely out of my element, not even being at home, not having Chris with me for that support. And so that was hard, getting that news out of town on a Friday. So I was trying to remain present in what I was there for, which was, to be with my family. And Reese was with us in Montreal. So we had a great time together, and, just was trying to be there. But I was pretty distracted, and just really what happened has driven me into a lot of, over the last week, a lot of just self-reflection and questioning. So the situation, as you are aware, is tied to alcoholism. And so I've just been really down, Dad. Like I told Chris, this was, I guess, Thursday. I felt like I just needed to tell him because of how I've been feeling. I just said, I feel really down. I just don't feel like myself. I don't want to do anything. I've been very inactive all week. I've been working. I've been busy with work. So I will say I've been productive in that sense, which that's good. I'm glad I have that. But outside of that, just kind of going through the motions and not really doing a whole lot. So I just wanted to fill him in where I was at. And, he was like, all right, well, let's talk about that. And we are, I am talking with him, but what I just started thinking about, because of what happened and the toll that the, drinking has taken on this person, both mentally, physically, and all sorts of things. It just really started making me think about my own choices. And obviously, alcoholism is a disease. It is, I believe, to be hereditary. I have that on what I would say is both sides of my family, from your side of the family, from my mom's side of the family. And just watching this happen, it's like anything else, it just hit me. I'm like, I don't think I'm on the same level, but I'm like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be anywhere close to that way. And I just wonder, because I do feel like I'm a person that, there's a lot of people I know that can go out and have a glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine, and they stop. That's it. They enjoy that. And then whether they go to water, or it doesn't really matter. My point is they're able to stop that. And I, for myself, don't think I'm that way. I mean, typically when I make the choice to drink, um, it's not that I don't just have two drinks, because sometimes I do just have two drinks or just one drink, but I don't go into it with, I'm going to be aware of that feeling of when I should stop, right? So sometimes it's one, sometimes it's two, sometimes it's six, and now that I'm getting older and looking back, as we've talked about on this podcast, this is behavior I've been living since I was 16 years old. Obviously, I wasn't drinking during the week as a 16-year-old because I lived at home with parents, but going out, going to parties, and just so much of your life, your social life, is framed by alcohol, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I guess I know I'm just kind of I feel like I'm having like word vomits here but I'm just unpacking where I've been to you mentally over the last now 8 days, and knowing what we have in our family. I guess I'm just curious, like, one, has my drinking ever worried you? I'm curious. And I'd also like to ask, like, have you ever gone through times of your life? Because this isn't the first time where I've sat and kind of reflected on this, but have you ever sat and thought, like, or asked yourself, do I have a drinking problem? And I do not think I am an alcoholic. I want to be clear. I do not think I have that disease, because there's plenty of days that I don't drink. But you hear people say, well, there's plenty of people that are alcoholics that don't drink every day as well. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the act of drinking in excess. It's the act of drinking to make yourself feel better because of where you're at, right? I mean, I've heard those
Mm-hmm.
things. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think about all that?
Well, I relate to it without question. For sure, I do. And I have gone through those thoughts many, many times. You and I have had those discussions often when we've been together drinking and it get out of hand.
Yeah.
And, feelings get hurt and things are said that don't need to be said, or better yet, things are said that need to be said, but not while you're drinking.
Yeah.
And, um, and I thought I think about this a lot of recent, since getting on this health kick over the
Mm-hmm.
last 9 months and concluding 9 months here shortly. So, but you're right. I feel, even though we may not think we have a problem, I'll admit that there is a problem, and it's called alcohol. It's not called 2 drink problem. It's called 6 drink, 8 drink problem. It's called drinking whiskey versus drinking wine, or it's called drinking whiskey versus drinking beer for me, or it's called drinking too much liquor versus just staying on an even keel. And I deal with, like being on this vacation, the first 5 days, the maintenance and maintaining, you know, consumption of alcohol was easier to do versus when you get into a group that is drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I got, Greg and I both got called out for, having a crazy day and letting our emotions on a situation that we were not in control of by, an outsider that um crossed some boundaries and borders with our women a
Mm-hmm.
little bit too much, to where on that particular day we weren't going to be satisfied until we called him out for it, and it got out of hand. And that was fueled by alcohol. So that to me shows it is a problem, especially when when you aren't in, you're trying to create an emotion of euphoria, and then it goes beyond being euphoric into an emotion of conflict. And that's not good. And that's something that, everybody, you know, the people you love are hurt because you are acting out trying to defend maybe someone, but they don't care. You're acting out and showing a side of yourself that is not yourself.
What?
Therefore,
Yeah.
you need to be able to control that, or you've got to
Yeah.
give it up.
It's
So
like the creation of drama, right? Like it creates drama that
exactly,
in
exactly.
another, again, on a Tuesday evening wouldn't be there, right? You would either just remove yourself from the situation or say, God, that guy's a real asshole. Like, glad I'm not an asshole, and not
Yeah,
do it. But you get, like you said,
and not become the asshole.
and not
Yeah,
become the asshole. And,
right.
it's like I found too that just it almost with the drinking, where I guess where my struggle is it is so integrated in your social life that, and I talked with Julie about this actually after our girls weekend when she and I were just she had come back to Orlando with me and we were staying at Stu's house that night, so we had some one-on-one time and we were just kind of talking about it and how it does feel like though at times where if you choose to not drink, like I went through. Well, for example, I did dry January. I didn't drink for the month of January, and I felt great, by the way. Like I was sleeping well. I felt good. I felt motivated to work out. Um, I was motivated to be productive in other aspects. Like it just, you feel good, right? And, but by doing that, it does feel like there are times where, from a social aspect, other people like don't include you because they know you're not drinking. And
Mhm.
and I don't know if that's because it makes them uncomfortable because they are, or they just assume, well, she won't want to be here because she's not drinking. And it's like, well, I still want to be in the friendship. I still want to be included. I may not drink, but I'm happy to sit around and be a part of the conversations and just, yeah. And quite frankly, it's like I don't need to be told like, oh, so you're still not drinking. It's like, what does it matter if I'm drinking or not drinking? It, it felt like there's times where you feel like, well, do you not want me here because I'm not drinking too? Like, am I not fun if I'm not drinking? Because, and maybe I'm not. I don't know. Like, maybe it's like, no, we want you around when you're drinking because you are funny and you are fun. And that's the Jamie that we want at the table. We don't want the Jamie that sits there and maybe decides after an hour and a half, like, all right, well, I'm going to head home because I'm tired. It's like I've had a full day and I'm going to shut it down early and not stay here till midnight just sitting around drinking. I don't know.
Well, I think that's a really good point, and that goes back to my. Well, I apologize for the because you don't know, but it it goes it goes back to my early days in college, and having you do know about early days in college, but just being kind of put in the spotlight, if I was drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Better yet, you're getting attention from your floor mates when you're drinking because you're having a good time. They're having a good time. You're acting like a fool. They think it's funny. So
Right.
you think it's funny. And
And it
that
probably is
became
funny.
and it probably is funny. So
Yeah.
therefore they like to feed you six beers and watch you be funny. So that and that doesn't mean but that's the struggle that you have, and you're the same way. You're
Mm-hmm.
funny whether you're drinking or you're not funny. I'm funny whether I'm drinking or I'm not funny. I may be more funny, I may be more quick-witted, but
Mm-hmm.
the point being is it is a game and a challenge. And I'm like you, when you're amongst friends and you're drinking, they expect you to have a good time and drink with them.
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne's great about this because she'll keep a cooler of an enclosed cooler with a straw in it and be drinking. And she
Mhm.
may be drinking a shot of vodka on 20 ounces worth of water or a mixer,
Right.
So, and it's always there in her hand. And I've, it's difficult for me if somebody's saying, hey, do you want to get another drink? And you just saying, well, I'm not really there. So the other challenge for me is, you know, Greg's drinking whiskey or I'm drinking whiskey, and then we're both drinking whiskey, and therefore you're chasing each other to have a good time. And you are having a
And
good
you
time.
are
It's
having
just
a
that
good time. Right.
you just, and more times than not, it's an innocent fun until it does not become innocent fun and you start being a dickhead. And then that's not
Yeah.
cool for everybody that you're with. So that's the fine line. And like you say, and it's coming back from that week off. And I said, we both said, man, I said, we've had too much, we drank a lot. We had a good time. We don't need to be drinking. And 3 days after I get home, I said, man, I really would like a glass of wine. So I drank 2 glasses of wine and said, that's the end of it. But the point being, I'm more proud when I'm not drinking the wine than I am when I'm drinking the wine.
Right.
So that is a hard game. And I know that you went through dry January, and the first 3 months, had no alcohol whatsoever on my program. And you're right, you feel great. Your head's clear. You can do anything you want to. You're doing more than you normally will
Yeah.
do. And my problem is if I'm going to sit down and drink a glass of wine, that's what I want to do. I want to sit and drink a glass of wine. It's not like I'm washing the car and drinking a glass of wine, or
Right.
it's not. So I do feel that we all have issues with how to control it when we embark on participating in it. And you, there's other people there's other people, Suzanne as well being diabetic, that knows that she can't drink all the time. So she monitors and paces herself
Yeah.
and does a very good job of policing herself. Times she'll have, well, I caught her on video on the Cabo trip where she had a really big day, and it's fun to see her to have that fun.
To
So,
let loose. Yeah.
and that's what, as you know, you can drink beer all day and not get where you want to go. So therefore, then you amp it up. You amp it up to get that
Well, and I
that
guess that
feel
in
good
there
feeling.
is my point. Is it to what you just said? Is it's like you drink to get there, but it's like, where are we going?
Exactly.
Right? Like
And we
what?
don't know some
And
days. You're right.
and why? Why? But and that I
Yeah,
guess
and I
that's
think
kind of
again the
where
whole
I'm.
dynamic of the dynamic of the crowd is what controls that
Yeah.
for me. If it's me and her, I can get there and just maintain, and I can put a glass of water in between it, or fill or drink a water bottle. But it takes effort, and it takes strategy, and it takes focus to do that, as you know. It's easier just to order another drink. It's easier to order another drink and just drink it throughout the day. And the only time that you feel bad about it is either emotional hardships that you caused at the end of the day because of that,
Or the next
or
day when you
looking,
feel like shit.
or the next day when you look at your tab.
Yeah. Or yeah, that too. Well, it's
But I haven't felt bad. I'm not drinking the same as I used to, because I've never had, I can't say never, but I don't wake up feeling bad. I may wake up feeling a little bit sluggish, but normally it doesn't bother me, especially when it's maintained. But
yeah.
I can't go out and drink whiskey all night and not feel shitty. I'm sure. I haven't done that though.
Yeah.
But my problem, self admittedly, is to, when we're out having fun, having enough to drink at a said time frame, and then walk into Cabo Wabo, and because I'm there, having the memory of a Corona Rita
Mm-hmm.
versus, and now it's a Dos Equis Rita,
Better.
I said, hey, I want one. So, and that was not a good move. it, it was not a good move. So, I mean, I'm with you. And I've thought a lot about this as well. Like I said, I've thought a lot about it at the beginning of this 9 months ago, or anytime you get in trouble with it, you think about it. My point is it needs to be more forefront, and it is as you say, it is Monday through Friday more forefront in my mind, not to worry about it, because there is a time come Friday or Saturday that you can relax and treat yourself, but you don't you don't have to you don't want to live for that. You want to even
Well,
it out to where it happens and it or it doesn't need to. And better
it
yet,
does or it doesn't.
I feel
Yeah.
like I need to work stronger on being the person that I am and the good person that I am when I'm sober versus
Hmm.
being what I am when I've had something to drink, too
I
much to drink.
I agree. Well, all that to say, we get to girls' weekend, and Julie hadn't shared this. And again, to my point of, you shouldn't have to, but she hasn't had a drink since January. I mean, maybe even before. Like, she literally has not had any alcohol. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I didn't realize that you you had made that choice, And she's like, I just kind of like stopped and found that I wasn't missing it. I didn't want it. And dad, she went all girls weekend, the whole weekend with us, and did not have a single drink.
Well, that's cool.
And she was fine. She was out with us till 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, just like I was,
Uh-huh.
um, and had a good time. It wasn't that she didn't. And I'm just very impressed by her. What she said, she's like, it's not like I had a goal that I'm never drinking again. She said that. She goes, if I want to have a drink, I'll have a drink. I'm not saying I'm never drinking again. But she's like, I haven't wanted one enough to do it, to flip that switch, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty cool. And I guess I have a lot of envy in the fact that she hasn't wanted to, right? Like, that's my thing. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I told Chris this last night because I was talking to Chris about it, and all this to get to the point of, I think I'm gonna take a break for a while and just try to go a while, like 30 days of just letting it clear my system and see how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and Chris was like, he says, like, I don't think you have a problem, but then he'll say, but yeah, there are times where I think you go one too many, three too many, and I don't know why you do that. And he'll look at me and be like, kind of like, really? You're gonna do another one? And then I get mad at him. And he goes, and that's when I know how you're gonna feel the next day. When you challenge me and are like, I'm fine, don't tell me what to do. And that's when he's like, that's when I know that you're not fine. And so it's like, I mean, it's not like my husband is sitting here going like, you have a drinking problem. I think he would say, I don't think you have a drinking problem, but I do think you drink too much sometimes. And I'm like, well, isn't that the same thing? Right? Isn't that in and itself a problem? So I'm telling him, what we're talking about this last night. And I said, I just think I'm going to take a break for a little while. And all this because he said, we opened a bottle of wine yesterday, and he poured himself a glass. He will tell you it wasn't a big glass, but I was like, it was a good pour. And he went to go get another glass, and he goes, did you drink all that wine? And I said, well, is it gone? And he's like, yeah. I go, well, I guess I did. So I basically drank an entire bottle of wine by myself yesterday. And I'm talking to him about it, and I said, yeah, I think that's a problem. Like, I think that's not good that I did that. And, and he was, again, he wasn't judging me. And I don't want to say I'm judging myself, but I guess I'm not proud of that, is my point.
Yeah, I think the takeaway here is for me anyway, and in this discussion, and I know for you, and I know for the members in our family, you won't have a drinking problem if you don't drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we drink, we're going to have a drinking problem. Now that's a pretty simple yes and no statement. And that is a hard, but I do like where you're headed on this. And I, I know I have given the same thought. And what I know needs to happen is to make sure that fresh in my mind, the times and the issues where conflict occurs because of it needs to come to me when, as you just pointed out, your significant other is telling you, you need to slow down. You don't need to get where you're headed. And instead of bolstering up, nobody's going to tell me what to do. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. I'll figure that out on my own. That's really when you have to realize that you have a loved one trying to help you out, knowing where you go when you don't. So, and to prevent emotional distress, and the one thing that I think about all the time is you can't take back shitty words. They're there, they resonate, they hurt, and it takes forever, as you and I both know, to let those go.
Mm-hmm.
You can let them go real quick. The person that's on the receiving end, that's harm. This comes back from my many hours of counseling. When that harm is created, you've got a lot of work to do to get back the respect that you lost in those statements. Because, as you say, you just throw up the words, you throw up the hurt, you throw up, you get. And I just had this conversation with Suzanne earlier, me getting upset yesterday over something that was not anything to do with her. It was a trigger from the past that I had to bring forward and create harm with her over my issue of not knowing how to handle that. Or it reminded me of a time where I had to handle that, that was hurting me. And the hurt wasn't on her. It was me reflecting the hurt that I'm feeling onto her.
Yeah.
And that's never good. This woman loves me dearly. She wakes up loving me. She goes to bed loving me, in spite of me being an asshole during the day. So, and that's what love is all about. That is unconditional, but you can't mistreat people and think it's always going to be there. And I feel we've you have grown up. I have grown up through the hardship that you and I have had through that same kind of conflict and issues. It was funny that Reed was on the show last time, and has experienced some of that, and it's just not cool. And I think you're right. I think you're onto something here about. And I had discussions with other people that were new relationships, one-time meetings in Cabo of a cool couple. But the fact of the matter is, we continue to poison ourselves. We continue to take away our health for the comfort of a buzz.
Right. Well, and it's like,
and that's not cool.
No,
and that's something that we do need to realize is, turning 70 on Friday, I don't get my other 69 years ever again. They're long gone.
Yeah.
So, and you said that earlier on one of these podcasts of telling when I started off on this health kick and getting and dropping the weight, and thank God maintaining the weight. In spite of kind of taking a relaxing mode of 12 days in Cabo, I came back and had 3 pounds on me, and it's gone today. So it's just, there's no need for it, as you say. And I'm not saying there's need for a toast, or there's need for this and that, but it doesn't have to dominate our 12 days out of the country or every day of 12 days out of the country. There needs to be a balancing act. And it's just sad to say that when you're in a pool and you're running around and you're with friends and they're serving mimosas at 7 a.m. and you're on vacation, you tend to do those things.
You tend to do it, right?
You can control it as well. And I did a better job controlling that the last Cabo trip, and this time kind of gave in to the desire of just letting it flow, and that just showed that I let my guard down, my discipline down, and just wasn't going to worry about it till I got home, and that didn't prove to be successful either. So
Well, and you said, history, us in the past, like being volatile on alcohol and hurting others. And I think we both have moved past that. I don't think we're, at least I will speak for myself. That has not been something I feel has happened with me. But I think what's equally important is, yes, you don't want to drink to a point where you're hurting others, but giving myself, my body, my mind, that same respect of,
good
why
point.
do I
Yeah,
want to keep doing something that I know? And again, I'm not going to end up in a hospital bed, but it literally is poison that you're putting in your body. It,
yeah. Well,
right?
you
It's,
aren't today for sure. You don't know where you'll be
well,
25 years from
right.
now.
Exactly. And so I think it's just, and maybe that's a good place to kind of wrap it, because, but I where I'm at right now is I'm happy that I am aware that I'm having these conversations with myself, as hard as they are. And quite frankly, it's made me be down. But talking to you, talking to Chris, I'm feeling better just talking about it, and being, again, just being aware that it's a thing I'm feeling, and I'm owning these feelings and kind of just putting it out there, sharing, because that's what we do here. That I don't know where I'm going to go with it, but I'm happy I'm thinking about it, I guess, is where I'm at.
Well, I think in knowing that, and your conversation with Julie, and knowing Julie, and that you have been dear friends all your life, and better yet, she's showing you a good way that it can be done too.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, that's a strength, and that's a compadre that you have in your back pocket to lean on if you choose to use it in that form or that fashion.
Yeah.
And we tend to exercise our elbows when we have emotional distraught or emotional woes and emotional downs, trying to let go of stress or let go of heartache or let go of just, and then a lot of times just to celebrate, the end of the day and the fact that it was a good day. I mean,
Right.
there's other reasons. So, and that's what it should be, is a celebration. It shouldn't be a medication,
A coping
you know.
mechanism. And
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that's where I want to, like yesterday, where I told Chris this. I said, I've wanted to have a drink since like 1:30. And why? There was no need for it. We weren't really doing anything. And he's like, "Well, why do you think that?" And I said, "I don't know." And that's what scares me. That I wanted it for most of the day. I didn't do it. And then when I did, though, I pretty much drank an entire bottle of wine by myself. And that to me tells me where I'm at right now mentally. And maybe some of it is because of what happened with, the news I found out. Maybe I am a little depressed. So my point is I don't want to be a person when I am in this place mentally that copes with drinking. And so my challenge for myself is, the next time I feel that way, to get up and go for a walk or go for a run, or better yet, ask Parker, hey, do you want to go throw the football? Like get out and just do something to change my environment and what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
what I'm sitting in at that time. So, yeah, that's kind of where I've been, and that's where I'm at, and I guess I'll keep you posted.
Well, you make a good point, because I feel the same thing here, um, more so than I have anywhere else, of being somewhat constrained in my ability to get up, and nothing prevents you from going outside and doing a walk. But there's something here for whatever reason that comforts me being in the home, in the home,
In the
and better
home.
yet, to sit down and enjoy a glass of wine. And,
Yeah.
and the issue there is, I don't need to enjoy the whole bottle, but I can enjoy a glass or two of wine. And my point there would be is instead of doing that, like you say, have you gotten your workout done? Have you done something for yourself today? Have you done something for your health today rather than just, get out on the backyard and light up the barbecue and let's cook some ribs or something.
Right.
Something that, and what I'm trying to say is that you get to a comfort level of doing that at the end of the day, and therefore you're doing it then every day, which isn't the case, but I'm saying it can become.
Yeah.
So, and I think my point in the story today is it's not important to me. It doesn't matter whether you're drinking every day or not. What matters is, can you say, I can drink and stop, and not to continue drinking.
Right.
The issue of the problem is continuing to drink when you've already had enough.
When you've had enough. Yeah.
And better yet, that's the first challenge I would put in front of this conversation is let's look at that. Let's look at, say, okay, you can either stop cold turkey, and that may be great, but the bigger win for me is to say, yeah, we had a couple glasses of wine and that was it.
Yeah. And that's what Chris always says. He's like, hun, you don't need to stop. You don't need to stop drinking. He's always said that. I don't think you're one of these people that just needs to stop. Like, you're either doing it or you're not doing it. But he's like, you just need to work on, to your point, have a couple of drinks and stop. And I will say, shout out to my mom. Over the last year, she had this same kind of reckoning with herself, that she felt like she was just drinking too much. She didn't like how it was making her feel. She's like, literally, she said, Jamie, I'm forgetting things. And I know part of it is age, yada, yada, yada. But I'm scared that a lot of this is tied to alcohol, and she worries because of the alcoholism in our family. And so she started using this app. It's called Reframe. So for any of those out there listening that maybe are looking for a way to just learn, be more aware, I think this is a pretty cool app. I'm going to look into. It is a paid app, but I think I'm going to do it. And Mom uses it because it really focuses on, from what she's told me, how alcohol is so ingrained in our social life as a culture. And it just gives you some tools to be aware of that and work through that. So what Mom's goal was, is she said, I'm only going to have 2 drinks a week. So if I go out on Saturday night and I have 2 glasses, or I have one on Monday and then I'm going to have one on Friday. And yes, she's obviously deviated from that over time sometimes, but in general, that is what she tries to stick to. And I mean, when we come over on Sunday nights, I'll have a glass of wine. She's not having a glass of wine. Maybe because she just doesn't want one, or because she already had her 2 drinks. And then some Sundays she'll say, you know what? It's a nice day. I'll sit on the back patio. I'm going to have a glass of wine with you. And so she's making that choice, but she's used this way of thinking to just be more aware. So interesting thing. If anyone's interested, check it out. Again, it's Reframe, something that's available out there. But like I said, I'll keep you posted. That's where I'm at.
Well, I think that is a great concluding point to that. So it goes back to the point of just being in control of the drink, not the drink in control of you. And when you get to the point of not being able to clearly see out of your eyes or think through your head, we all know when we get there. It's just stopping shy of that. And most times that would occur. It's rare that you're going to kind of create havoc all the time. But the fact that you do sometimes is showing that it's still the winner. It's still the devil. It's going to get you, and it's going to take you where you don't need to go. So
Yeah.
it's a good point. I'm with you. I think that's, as with anything, it's just discipline of what's the best thing to do, and to know what, even eating your gummy bears. You can
Yeah.
eat the whole bag every now and then, but not all the time.
I got to eat them to stay awake, Dad. Don't worry, I'm going to get some when you're here. I'll bring them to Atlantic City. So
That's funny you mentioned that, because Suzanne her mom, when she went back home the last time, she loves those little Hershey Kisses.
yeah.
So they were shopping, and her mom wanted to buy the 5-pound bag of Hershey Kisses, and Suzanne said, "Mom, you don't need 5 pounds of Hershey Kisses." So I got a Brad Steele in the email the other day, and it was I can't remember. I think it was, I don't know how many pounds it was, but it was more than 5 pounds that you could buy. It was $20 worth of Hershey Kisses. That it was more Hershey Kisses than you could eat before they would melt if you left them out out in space. But it was, I thought about that. I forgot to tell Suzanne about that was available for like $19.95
Wow.
or something.
That's a steal.
So everything's not cheap these days. That's for sure.
That is for sure. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
All righty, hon.
And
Yep.
I'll see you soon.
Yep. See
Real
you at the end of the month real soon.
And shout out to you that when this comes out, you will be 70 years old, Dad.
I know. That's
So,
Friday the 14th.
Friday the 14th. Well, I'll be talking to you on your birthday, but happy birthday,
Suzanne's
Daddy.
birthday follows on the 17th. We've got lots of June birthdays.
I got to add that to
Yep.
the old family calendar then. Thanks
Yep.
for telling me that. All right.
All right, honey. Love you.
I love you.
Thank you for tuning in today. With so many podcasts out there, we are grateful you chose to spend your time with us.
And we'd love to hear from you. So send us your questions, comments, and feedback to info@twoclicksinapod.com, and we might feature your message in a future episode.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social and head over to our YouTube channel where you can watch the full episode live and in living color. You can find us at 2 Clicks in a Pod. That's 2, as in the number, clicks in a pod.
Well, James, until next time, love you.
Love you too, Daddy.